Hello friends, I want to welcome you to the third episode here on Echoes of Eden. I'm your host Andrew, and with me is family coach and my friend, Karibu Sana.
Thank you, Andrew. Viewers, welcome. I'm your family coach, Gogi Samuel. I want to take this chance to welcome you to our series of Echoes of Eden as we go back and find about God's ideal towards family and family life.
Oh, very good.
Thank you, Andrew.
In the last episode, family coach, we talked about how fornication and adultery.
Yes.
But all this is sinful.
Yes.
But in order to avoid this, there has to be a union,
Yes.
which we call marriage.
Yeah.
So my question is, what is really marriage?
Marriage is coming together of two consenting adults, male and female, who have come up to live together with an intention of being together for life. They must be two consenting adults, and they ought to be male and female as God ordained it. For this reason, a man shall leave his family, a woman the same, and the two shall become together and become one. That is what is marriage.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, do you believe marriage was instituted in the beginning?
Yes, marriage was instituted. Marriage is an idea of God. It's not man's idea. It's an idea of God, which was instituted in Eden. After God creating Adam, in Genesis chapter 1 and in Genesis chapter 2, when God had created Adam, he says, it's not good for man to be alone. I'll make a helpmeet for him. And so what he does is, he does the first operation, put man in a coma, gets one of the ribs, and brings out a woman, and brings them together. And that was the genesis of marriage. And he tells them, go, multiply, replenish the earth. That's the beginning of the genesis. So marriage is from Eden.
Okay.
Yeah, marriage is from Eden, and it's heavenly ordained. And that's why I'm saying it's between male and female. You cannot have any other marriage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very well said. And do you think there are any qualifications needed for someone to get into a marriage?
Of course, qualification number one is be of age. Be an adult. That is qualification number one. You need to be an adult. Number two, you need to be of sound mind so that you can consent, because it is two consenting adults. So you need to be of sound mind. And it should be a voluntary choice. It should not be forced. And then, of course, the other things now is compatibility. Compatibility comes in. Who are you marrying, and how well do you know the other party, and what are the reasons for getting married? Why is she getting married? Why are you getting married?
Yes.
You know, marriage should not be an escapist. You are running away from home because a girl has been chased and then she decides to get married, or you are running because you are marrying because of social pressure. No, it should be with good reasons why you are getting into the institution, because marriage is an institution. And mind you, it's the only institution that you graduate before you commence the studies or you commence the course. You know, for any other thing, you go to school, you register, you study, at the end of your classes, you graduate. Marriage, you start with a certificate. Okay. The wedding day, you are given a certificate. That means you have to carry it all along. So you start by graduating before you start the courses. But of course, that's why we really emphasize about courtship and knowing the right thing, so that you can know, are you compatible? Okay. And do you perceive life the same? You should not be coerced into marriage.
Okay, very good, very good. Family coach.
Yes.
There's this matter of divorce.
Yes.
Going around in the media saying it's okay, the Bible supports it. What is your take on this?
Number one, let's agree. The Bible does not support divorce. Okay. Actually, in the book of Malachi, Malachi is the last book in the Old Testament. In the book of Malachi chapter 2 verse 16, God says, I hate divorce. Okay. So God hates divorce. So you cannot in any way say that the Bible supports divorce. It doesn't. And even in that instance where the Bible allows, not support, but allows, and You find this especially when you are dealing with the book of Matthew chapter 5 from verse 21 down there. Jesus says, Moses allowed you divorce in the issues of immorality, or when one of the parties have committed adultery, because of the hardness of your hearts. Because you have hearts of stone. Now, an ideal Christian, should an ideal Christian be having a hard heart or a soft heart?
Soft heart.
In a soft heart, there is forgiveness. You see why people divorce in cases of immorality is because you say, I cannot forgive my spouse. Is that the ideal? Jesus says, Moses allowed you because of the hardness of your heart. And many times we have seen it. I keep telling families. It's not, that the only reason that people can divorce is because of immorality. And they think that's a solution. It's not. Okay. As much as possible, we should look for reconciliation and forgiveness. Because after all, you find a man who finds the wife in adultery, divorces that wife, then goes ahead to marry a woman who even has children. Now, you chased away this woman because she went to bed with another man. But the one you bring also has child or children with another man. So what have you solved? You find a woman running away from her marriage because the husband has committed adultery or has moved or has been found with another woman in a compromising situation. When she runs away, within time, you find she is also now having another man who is married somewhere. So what are you solving? Divorce. God says, I hate divorce. So you cannot support divorce biblically. I know there are circumstances that people say, like for instance where there is abuse. And people say, you better get out than get killed. So as a family coach, I cannot say that stay in an abusive relationship until you die in the relationship. But I say before you talk about divorcing, maybe yes, you can separate for a time, try to look for solutions. Because the Bible will not support divorce. It says, God says, I hate divorce. That's the word, Malachi 2:16. And when we talk about these issues of marriage and family, the last words in the book of Malachi, that is chapter 4, the last words that heaven spoke and then became silent for over 400 years between the Old Testament and the New Testament. The last verse, 2 verses in Malachi chapter 4, those are the last words in the Old Testament. God says, I'm raising my prophet because I want to turn the hearts of the parents to the children and the hearts of the children to the parents. So God values family, and divorce is not there in the Bible. So
divorce, the Bible does not support it?
Does not support it. And not only the Bible. We are Africans. In the African traditional society, there is no divorce. There was no divorce. It was not part of our society. Divorce is a creation of the Western culture. It's a creation of the Western culture. And it's because of divorce that we have created other challenges that even the church and the society is unable to address, especially when we are talking about single parents. We deal with that later. But it is a creation of the West because they value divorce. Somebody can even say, I'm divorcing you. Why? Because I have found a more interesting person. It's a Western thing. Africans, we didn't have that. So it's something very foreign. It's not biblical, it's very foreign.
Oh, well said.
And when you understand why God introduced the marriage from beginning, because I said we are going back to Eden. God introduced the marriage, number one, to teach us the plan of salvation. That through marriage you can learn. Number two is to disapprove the claims of Satan, because Satan was claiming that God is selfish. God decides to share his powers. God creates. He shares his powers of creating with human beings where we procreate. We progress life. Number three, of course, marriage is there to create love or to show love. The other one is intimacy. And this intimacy that we are talking about here, in the Bible, Genesis chapter number 4, verse 1, the Bible will say, Adam knew Eve, and they begot Cain. Adam knew Eve, and they beget Abel. These are the same word is what is used in John chapter 17, verse 3, that, and this is eternal life, that you may know God. Knowing God, it's talking about that intimacy, that you need to know God to the same way in marriage, people know each other.
Okay.
So it's very crucial. Marriage is supposed to teach us that. And even when the children come in, and this is why you realize that when you read the book of Genesis chapter number 5 from verse 21, the Bible will talk about Enoch and say, and Enoch was the grandfather of Noah. Enoch begot Methuselah. And when he got a child, he learned when he was a father to this child, to an extent, he walked so closely with God until he was normal. You know, in an ideal marriage setup, as a father, I'm supposed to demonstrate God to my children. And that is why in the Lord's Prayer we say, our Father who art in heaven. Now, imagine a child who have grown up in an abusive marriage, where he sees the father abusing the mother, abusing the children. Can that child pray the Lord's Prayer and say, our Father who art in heaven? Because he thinks of a father as a tyrant. God wanted to teach us from the family, where when I say my father, you know, I find Christians doing all manner of things because they want favors from God. Such that you can fast for 2 weeks because you want God to bless you with something. You want a job or you want money or anything. As a parent, I have children. Does my daughter need to fast for me to pay school fees? Does my daughter need to fast for me to buy her shoes? It is my responsibility. And if I was to go home and find my daughter fasting for the last 5 days because she needs a new pair of shoes, I will feel very offended. It is my responsibility. When you get it from family, you know it's God's responsibility to feed you and to take care of you. You don't need to fast for God to do this for you. And I'm not saying fasting is bad, but don't fast for the wrong reasons. You don't fast to move God. Marriage should teach us the way we handle marriages. Teaches. That's why I was telling you the other day. You belong to your father, whether you have good behavior or bad behavior. I belong to God. No, it's not about my behavior. It's about I am his son. Every father wants good behavior from the children. But you don't chase those with bad behaviors. So this idea that God chases people who don't behave well is very foreign. It's not biblical. It's not the gospel. The gospel, we are children of God. And I value my children irrespective of. I do my best so that they can have the best behavior. But I never chase anyone away even if the behavior is not right. No. That's the marriage is supposed to teach us about the plan of salvation. Yes. I don't know whether I have answered what you asked.
You have.
Yes.
You have given me a mind blown. You spoke about a few minutes ago, you talked about cultures.
Yes.
And traditions.
Yes.
Nowadays they say 2 is better than 1 for a man. That is, 1 husband, 2 wives. Do you think that can be in the same category with marriage?
Marriage, you know, you have raised an issue of polygamy.
Yes.
If I got you right.
Yes.
And you have referred to culture. And we all come from cultures.
Yes.
Somebody said the other day, we come from villages. And the villages culture. We have our culture. Like, for instance, the African setup. Culturally, Africans were polygamous by nature. Almost all Africans. But when the white man came and he found Africans polygamous, he could not understand. And he said it's evil. It's immoral and all those kind of things. He found the African man treating diseases with his herbs. And he called it witchcraft. But he introduced his culture in the name of Christianity. You know, you need to differentiate Western culture and Christianity. Christianity came from Judaism, not from West. And in Judaism, it was normal to find polygamous people. It was very normal to find polygamous people. But in the West, there is no polygamy. Africans had polygamy. So now, today, when you try to mix the three, you need to differentiate Christianity, religion, and culture. What people talk about many times is religion, not Christianity. Because there is no single text that you can quote. You know, I have quoted a text that God says, I hate divorce. There is no single text he will say, I hate polygamy. And we have so many heroes of faith who are polygamous. But the Western culture brought that confusion. And I'm not saying that people should be polygamous. But it's an issue that people need to stop burying their head in the sand and face it, because it's an issue in the contemporary society. It's an issue. Today we have that issue of side chicks, the so-called Mpago Wakado, which is practiced by Christians. It's not about Muslims, it's about Christians. Because they are realities of life. And I wish, one of these days, I think we are going to discuss polygamy as a topic.
Okay.
But what I want to say is we should have a broader perspective when we are talking about polygamy. Let's not close our mind and confuse Western culture with Christianity. Let's open our minds and know that David, who God says, a man after my own heart, was polygamous. I don't have to go quoting many, but you find them among the heroes of faith, including even Abraham, the father of faith.
Okay.
And God accepted them that way. So this idea that God cannot accept anyone who is polygamous, you know, one of the things that is making hard for Christianity to find root in the Western world, in the Muslim world, is because of that issue. Because you go and you find a Muslim who has 4 wives, who knew Allah and did not believe in Jesus. You share the gospel with the person and you introduce Jesus, and the person finds this Jesus to be very loving and wants to come into Christianity. But then you tell him, wait a minute, for you to come to Christianity, you have to do away with these wives. Now, the person cannot understand you. Because when you say you have to do away with these wives, and they are his wives, what are you telling him? And so the person gets confused and he says, then, are you saying that the God you have introduced me to is such kind of a God? Then if that is your God, I think I don't need him. And so in the process, we have discouraged the people from knowing God. If we had time, I would like us to look at two texts. Exodus 21 verse 10. And Deuteronomy 21 verse 15 to verse 17. It talks about, and this is Bible, it talks about, if, especially when you look at Deuteronomy 21 verse 15 to 17, if you get a second wife, the first wife, the Bible says, should still be provided shelter, intimacy, and everything that she was being provided. That's Bible. And that was their society. Today's society and so-called Christianity, in fighting polygamy, has introduced divorce and the issue of singles, which is an issue that we are going to discuss. I may not exhaustively, because of time, deal with the polygamy for now, but I will say there is no explicit text that one, in a real, leave alone the ecclesiastical, there is what the church says and what the Bible says. If you look at what the Bible says, you cannot stand and you say that those people who are, the Bible will say adulterers will not see heaven. But it will not say those who are polygamists. The only text in the Old Testament, in the New Testament, that talks about polygamy is when Paul is talking in the book of, he is talking about church elders. And he says, let a church elder be a husband of one wife. What does that tell you? That in the membership of the Christian faith, in the churches, there were many men with multiple women. So he says, for the one to be chosen to become an elder, let him have one wife. And he gives a very good reason, so that he may have enough time to dedicate to the church. It's not about spirituality. It's about availability to serve the church. But so-called ecclesiastical, the church will pick that and start saying that, no, it is one man, one woman. Yes, it is, because in the beginning it was one man, one woman. But as a result of sin, as life moved on, and anyway, which is the worst evil? Polygamy or this singlehood we are seeing around here? Mpago Wakado. The so-called Mpago Wakado, which has permeated the society, is like it's in the order of the day. Even in Christian churches, you find that that so and so and so and so are having a relationship, but they are not husband and wife. You know, this man is in church, he is a very good woman in church, but the church treasurer is also a single woman, and they are having their own private affairs out there. And these children of single parents are denied the father, the physical presence of the father, in the name of fighting polygamy.
Okay.
Wouldn't it be better if they were to be then in a polygamous relationship than what we are seeing here? Because today, go to any society, they say, what you have been brought up by a single parent startup. There are so many, and it is bringing challenges because they cannot adjust. You know, some of the challenges we are seeing here, you have been brought up by your mother alone. You didn't have a father. And you get married. How will you handle a wife? Because you have never seen how a man lives in his house. That girl brought up by a single mother without a dad, and she gets married. How will she handle the husband? She has never seen a man in their home, and she doesn't know how to handle a man. So she gets married, and straight away, there are challenges. There are challenges. Because in her life, you know, children learn by observation, not by what we teach, it's by observation. In an ideal family, the daughter sees that when our dad comes, he sits there, the father does this, the mother does this. These are the roles. But when brought up by a single parent, and then she gets married, how will she handle a man? If there are few challenges in the marriage, she says, I'm out. Even my mother was able to raise us without me. That boy brought up by a single mother reaches a point where he says, if it's not working, even my mother was able to, and the marriage is broken. We need to value marriage more. My view as a family coach. I don't think that the rate of divorce that is happening in the so-called side chicks in Mpango Wakado is better than polygamy. I would rather polygamy than what is happening. The use in the society and the evils that are coming in, I wish we would reconsider and stop confusing Western culture with Christianity. Because the problem, you see, if we are going back to alternative medicine, people are now going back to herbs and those kind of things, which the white man came and told us it's witchcraft. The same white man came and disorganized the African family. Think of that single mother, no husband, and she gets sick, and the children have already gone overseas, or they are busy, they are married and they are far away. Who takes care of her? Who has a real responsibility for her? Because one of the things about marriage is your spouse has a responsibility over you. Even when you become incapacitated, the person becomes a caregiver. Who is the caregiver? You know, we are exposing our children to things that should not be happening. That this single woman, when she is sick, the daughter becomes the caregiver. Mpaka anaosha mama yake and starts, you know, things that should, because it's the husband who is supposed to do that. But we have created a situation where it is becoming like it's normal. It's not supposed to be normal. The society needs to reconsider. I don't want to say categorically that people should be polygamous, but I'm saying between a rock and a hard stone, which is the lesser evil, people need to look at that seriously and consider it. And let the churches come out and be sincere. One of these fine days, Andrew, we are going to discuss about singles. But I have seen pastors, when single ladies come, she is 30, she is divorced, she is 30, she never got married, and she comes and she starts talking about the challenges, and the pastor says, pray, just pray. Umeolewa na Yesu, umeolewa na Yesu. How? How? When you tell somebody that you get married to Jesus, how will you get married to Jesus? Jesus will never fulfill the emotional needs, because we are emotional human beings. Jesus will never satisfy the sexual needs of this single woman. Will Jesus ever do that? So are we sincere when we tell her, I'm praying for you, Jesus will be there for you? Jesus will never satisfy the emotional needs, the sexual needs of a human being. And then you say, no, you know, when you pray, the needs disappear. Is it true? Those are feelings. She is ovulating, and the emotions, feelings, you know, hormones don't listen to prayers.
True.
So we need to be a little bit more honest in these things and stop burying our head in the sand and face reality.
Okay.
Because by not facing reality, the church is living in sin. Where I was talking to a pastor friend of mine, and he raised a very important issue. He was talking about honor and shame. We hold people in honor, so we don't want to shame them even when they live in sin. Because you know, this is an elder and he's having Mpago Wakado, who is the church secretary, the church clerk, but we don't want to talk about it because they are men of honor. And if you confront them, you will shame them.
Okay.
It's an evil that is happening, and the church is burying its head in the sand. And I'm not talking of any particular church or any denomination. Go any church, any Christian church, and tell me the number of singles who are there, single ladies, driving, doing very well financially, very educated, very intelligent. Everything is working for them, but they don't have a husband.
Okay.
It's an issue.
Okay, well said, family coach. Because of time, I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you, Andrew.
And hopefully, can't wait for the next episode.
Welcome. We are ready. We will continue sharing and discussing these things. So thank you for your time.
And also, if you have any comments, any suggestions, or any answers, please don't be shy to write them down on the comment section.
Thank you. We appreciate being with you. We are open. We can always interact. We can always talk. If you have issues, feel free to ask. Feel free to call. Feel free to discuss so that we can continue sharing as we go back to Echoes of Eden. Thank you and God bless you.